Welcome to Learning Spanish World. Today, we'll watch an introduction to the are, ear verbs in Spanish in just a few minutes. Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Welcome back to Learning Spanish World. My name is Mr. Briggs and I'm so happy to be here with you today. If this is your first time here, please give me a like and subscribe. We upload videos every week. Today, I got a surprise for you. We are going to be learning something very useful. We'll be learning about the most common verbs in Spanish. And you must know these verbs because people all over the Spanish-speaking world use these verbs on a daily basis. So it is very important that we learn what these verbs are and we also learn how to use them effectively. Okay, so to begin with, I wanted to direct your attention to the word verbs. Look at this. Look at this. The Spanish word for verbs is verbos. We can see here how closely related they are. True, there may be different languages, but both languages are European. And the Latin element is present in both languages. So as we can see here the relation between both words. Now the word verbs in Spanish is pronounced as verbos. Verbos. Okay? Now you must be wondering, what are these most common verbs? What are these verbs that I really need to know in order to communicate effectively in Spanish? Okay, well, before we proceed any further, I'm going to tell you a little secret. In Spanish, there are mainly three types of verbs that you will have to learn. And these are uno, ar, dos, and tres, ir. These three types of verbs are very common in Spanish. The are verbs, the verbs, and the ir verbs. You must be wondering, what's Mr. Briggs talking about? What does he mean by are verbs, verbs, and ir verbs? Do not panic. Here it is, the explanation. Okay, so here it is, the big mystery. We got the AR verbs, ar, and we got verbs such as hablar, which means to talk. Now notice the ending of the word hablar, the AR. This is why we call these verbs are verbs, because they all end with an AR in its infinitive form. The infinitive form is pretty much the form before the verb is conjugated. So in English, hablar would be to talk. So as you can clearly see, all these verbs, hablar, which means to talk, saltar, which means to jump, comprar, to buy, bailar, to dance, ayudar, to help, they all have something in common. Look at it carefully. Let's see if you can see. Can you see what they share in common? Look at it carefully. Can you see it now? I'll put a little help here. That's right. Look at the are endings. That's right. All these verbs have the are ending. This is why they are referred to as the are verbs. And the same goes for and ir. We got verbs such as querer, which means to want. Notice the ending, tener, which is to have, comer, to eat, beber, to drink, leer, to read. All of these verbs end with an all of them. That's why they are referred to as ER verbs. And finally, we got number 3, ir. We got vivir, which means to live. Notice the two last letters, ir. Escribir, to write. Decir, to say. And salir, to go out. Salir. All of these verbs end with an ir. So whenever you see these verbs, try to identify them before you even try conjugating them. Okay, so we got the are, and ir verbs. That's the first thing you should remember. 3 types of verbs in Spanish: are, and ir. Okay, so before we proceed any further, it's very important to clarify certain concepts that you need to understand. Now, don't worry, because this is pretty basic. I'm not going to dig deeper into grammar. I know that a lot of you may feel a little bit intimidated by this. So we are going to make it as simple and easy to understand as possible. However, there are certain things that you need to know in order to understand what we are talking about. So for now, I don't want you to worry too much about learning how to conjugate these verbs. But what I want you to learn or to understand, you probably already know, but perhaps there are some of you who don't understand or haven't been able to cover this in the past. I wanted to talk to you about the infinitive of a verb, el infinitivo. Now, don't panic, do not worry, this is pretty easy. So the infinitive is the basic form of a verb. So you must be wondering, what do you mean by saying the basic form of a verb? Well, pretty simple. Have a look at these examples here. We got the verbs to talk and to be. Now, these verbs in this form, they have not been conjugated. So it's any verb that is preceded by the word to. Any of these words that are preceded by the word to, they are the infinitive of the verb. Any verb that is preceded by the word to is an infinitive. It's the verb in its basic form, meaning that we haven't conjugated these verbs. To talk, to be. In Spanish, hablar, ser, and estar. So for example, infinitive would be to talk. We don't say I to talk. We would be using the infinitive in the wrong way. We would say I talk. We would get rid of the to, and this wouldn't be the infinitive anymore because we'd be conjugating the verb. Any verb that is preceded by the word to, like in these examples, to talk, to be, is an infinitive. It's the verb in its basic form. And the parallel to talk and to be in Spanish would be hablar, notice the ending, ar, ser, estar. Any verb that ends with an r, or ir would be the infinitive form in the Spanish language. And that was all for today, boys and girls. If you want to learn more, don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We'll be uploading more videos and we'll be learning Spanish more and more each day. Have a lovely day. Nos vemos, amigos. Adiós.